right, so I'm here with Jake Cutler from BizFi, and the reason that I wanted to make this episode, first of all, Jake, thank you for taking the time to join me here today. I know that a lot of my viewers probably have never really looked into financing, probably not even considered it because they're just starting off, but down the road, I feel like they are going to want some education around equipment financing and what that looks like realistically. But thank you for joining me.
Michael, my absolute pleasure, and thank you for having us on. We're very interested in the laser space and all that you're doing, and we're happy to contribute if we can.
Nice. Before we get started, you want to just give us kind of an overview of what BizFi is and kind of some of the services that you offer?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I've been in the equipment finance industry for more than 15 years. I actually started out over in Europe before returning to the States. And I just found that equipment finance could be tougher than I thought it should be. There was just a lot of paperwork. And so a few years back, I set out on my own to create a company that also had some digital advantages and digital automations to make it easier for people who sell equipment and also for people who want to buy, just to have a smooth and easy process.
What is equipment financing and how does it differ from like a traditional business loan?
Equipment finance is really our lead offering, but we also help with small business lending. So we'll do working capital, lines of credit, SBA loans, and even business term loans. But equipment finance is definitely its own thing. It can tend to be much more fast moving than some of the other options. And there's less work that has to go into it, particularly in this space of kind of small businesses and these, engraving lasers. They work really well on a finance option. And so when you talk about SBA loans and business term loans, it can just be a really time-consuming process that is difficult for most small businesses that already have their hands full, right? Like people have projects to deliver on, they're doing their day-to-day, and equipment finance is just focused on the equipment. It can be fast and easy. It helps you pay for it over time, and it helps you to increase revenues in your business.
What are the benefits of doing equipment financing versus just paying for cash or using your credit card?
You're asking a great question, and just one of the basic tenets of what are the benefits of finance. And for most small businesses, taking that capital out of their business, some of them don't have the option. They may want this piece of equipment, but they just don't have the capital at all. And so therefore, finance just makes it more accessible, spreads the cost over time. It's nice bite-sized chunks. Other companies do have the cash, but they have other considerations. They have to do marketing programs, they have to pay payroll, they have to deliver on projects, and using up all that capital to pay for equipment can put them in a very stressful situation. So having equipment finance, being able to spread costs over time, it does also open up most small businesses to some tax advantages, Section 179, where you can kind of depreciate the equipment over time. And so there's a lot of advantages to a small business to be able to finance rather than take the capital out of their business.
Agreed. Yeah. So yeah, cash flow is a big thing, especially when you get to a certain level and you do have all that overhead, and being able to not come up with a $30,000 chunk for the next industrial grade laser engraving machine because you need to keep up with the demand because you're doing so well, that can hurt. That 30,000 chunk from your business bank account can hurt. So that's the benefit that I see in it. It's a cash flow game with businesses.
Absolutely. And also being able to up your game as a small business. When you're ready and you want to take on bigger projects and you want to move faster, you'll have a much better opportunity to increase your revenues with that right piece of equipment.
Are there any limitations to the kinds of laser engraving equipment that people can finance through BizFi? Like, is it only from certain vendors? Is it only new laser engraving equipment? Or will you even lend for used high-end laser engraving equipment?
We're vendor agnostic, so we can work with anyone. We could also work with multiple vendors. So if you're buying 2 or 3 pieces of equipment, we might be able to, the right person that has some creditworthiness, we might be able to get that into one finance contract just to make things really smooth and easy for you. So we can work with any equipment. We can also work with used equipment, as you pointed out, typically more for the higher end stuff, less so for the smaller kind of hobby stuff when it's used. Would be less of interest to some of the lenders. But we're very flexible, particularly if we're working with the right companies that have some time in business and some creditworthiness. There's a lot we can help you accomplish.
So basically you're saying you're agnostic when it comes to which vendor you work with, wherever the laser comes from. But there are some other considerations to consider, I think, when you're looking at equipment financing. So the type of laser machine that they want to finance, it doesn't matter what kind it is. You know, whether it's a CO2, a fiber laser, a laser cleaner. It's you guys just kind of all see it. The equipment doesn't affect their the type of equipment doesn't affect their interest rate, correct?
Type of equipment isn't going to affect rates or ability to be approved. And mostly, I think this is great equipment. We really love working in this space. There may be some limits with getting equipment from outside of the country, and particularly some of like the Chinese manufacturers may not be looked upon so kindly. But I think mostly the people that you're partnered with, Michael, are really quality customers, are based in the U.S., and we absolutely have an appetite for this equipment.
For sure. For sure. Have you done any work with financing laser engraving equipment so far? Have you worked with manufacturers? Have you done individuals? Like, what kind of experience do you guys have in the laser engraving space?
We've previously worked with Epilog, and also through those relationships, know some small businesses that do engraving. Some do wedding parties. Some do the smaller shows where they're just doing designs for more of the consumer space. And so we know these devices, and we also work a lot with CNC machines and bigger kind of cutting machines that can cut into all kinds of materials. So
Sure.
we're familiar with the space. We love partnering with people in the space, and we're happy to help.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of see them all in the same space. You know, the CNC, the laser cutters, the fabrication machines. There's a wide range of CNC type machines, whether they're using a drill bit head, or laser, a water jet. They're all in that same category. So that's good to hear. So can I ask you then, who qualifies for equipment financing, and what are some of kind of the basic things that you look for when someone wants to apply for laser engraving equipment financing?
So something that not everyone is aware of, across the equipment finance industry and the small business industry, any company with less than 2 years is seen as a new start and higher risk. And so when people have reached that 2-year mark or beyond, we have a lot more options for them. When a company is less than 2 years, they are considered a new start. It can tend to be seen as something that's higher risk, and there's fewer options out there. So for companies that are kind of in the first few months, they don't really have the revenues coming in, using cash, trying to get a personal loan, or using a credit card may make more sense. If you have some time in business and some revenues coming in, we do have new start options. They tend to be a little bit more high risk. But for those companies that have reached that 2-year mark, there's a lot more opportunity for you and more flexibility.
Yeah, so that's really good that you pointed that out, because I wanted to make it clear that while everyone watching this video and a lot of my viewers are just getting started on their laser engraving journey, that I did make this video just for you guys, but I made it for the future you in about 2 years. That's how I kind of see this, because my hope is that these people that are putting in the hard work, grinding every day with their laser engraving equipment, that they get so busy and they have so much business that it's time for them to get some high level industrial grade laser engraving equipment that's super fast, that can output tons of things a day. And those typically start at around $25, $30, $40, $50,000 for those high-end machines. And I wanted to educate everyone that financing this equipment is an option. So I love that you threw that out there. So in reality, if you're just starting off and you're looking to get into it, you still may want to default back to that credit card option, or, see if you can hustle up some money from your family to get your initial investment, and then come see BizFi later when you're busting at the seams, right? Do I got it right?
I think you're pretty close, and we have some experience in this space. And what we've seen is there's some people that start out as hobbyists and then find they have a great business model on their hands. And we can actually work with people that are known as a sole proprietor, that haven't started their business entity yet, but they have a history of having done business in this space. But when people are ready to really get serious about this, and you've incorporated your business, we're absolutely here to help people, whether they're new starts or have more than 2 years time in business. And when you're ready to up your game with, as Michael pointed out, that more industrial, more serious equipment, finance makes a ton of sense when you're trying to acquire something for $25,000 or more. We do base, initially, it's a really interesting thing about our industry. We do base it on people's personal credit, but it is a business loan. So once you accept a business finance loan, it will help build the credit footprint of your business so that you can do bigger and better things as you continue to grow.
What about businesses with like less than perfect credit? So do you just change the offer then? Their interest rate just goes up because their credit rating is less than perfect? Is that kind of what their offer looks like based on their credit rating?
We can work with a wide range of businesses, and we can work with people that have a little bit of a tougher credit, but it is going to increase the interest rate. And so for a piece of equipment like this, when you're really busy and you're landing a ton of projects, it makes sense for you to get that better equipment and pay a little bit more interest. But if your
Right.
business is a little bit more tepid or you're more on the hobbyist side, it may not be as worthwhile. But it still can be a better option than using a credit card, which is a very high APR. It provides some flexibility to the newer businesses, but to companies that are really planning to stick around for a while, spreading your costs over time with a business finance option can really make sense.
So what's the typical approval process look like? What's the timeline on that from the moment they submit their documentation and their application?
We have a super easy online application process. When you complete it, it can take less than 3 minutes to complete. We can sometimes have an answer back within an hour or up to 24. In some cases, when you're buying a bigger piece of equipment or your equipment, your credit history is a little tougher, we may need more information such as bank statements. But in most cases, we can get you approved in an hour. We can get these funded in 24 to 48 hours. And we try to pre-fund your partners 100% so that they can order your equipment. In some cases, people are building these printers or they have to get them from some kind of a backlog. And we can make sure we get them funded so that you can get your equipment in a timely manner.
For sure. And someone wanting to get into this has never done equipment financing. Like, do you guys have support for them? Like, they may need to know like what are you asking for? I'm sure you guys offer some kind of support in filling out the application, to answer all their questions. Am I right?
Sure. Here at BizFi, we pride ourselves on customer service, and we're here to help all kinds of business customers. Whether you're newer to business, whether you've been around for a while. And one of the things that's really interesting is some people are really great at either cooking, running a restaurant, building a house. They're not all great at running a business. And we're here to help those people. We want you to understand the process, understand the benefits of finance, and also get some feedback onto the health of your business and how you can make sure you stay healthy as a business as you move forward.
Cool. Documentation, you're going to be looking for what? You're going to be looking for proof that they've been in business for 2 years. So are you going to ask them for P&L reports? Are you going to ask them for financial statements? Like what kind of documentation are you going to be wanting from a business that's just been in business for 2 years? Let's say just for 2 years, right? What are you going to be looking for?
Any business that's been around for more than 2 years, we have a great application only process. We can move forward with just an application, a quote for the equipment, and mostly we benchmark their time in business based on the Secretary of State. So it's super light touch and easy. When people are buying like that maybe, and there are laser engraving devices, and when you get into the CNC space, devices that are more than 100, we may be asking for those bank statements. When people are really buying equipment more than 150,000, we start getting into asking for tax returns. But for this equipment that ranges 25,000 to 80,000,
Sure.
we need very little documentation to move it forward.
Well, 25,000 to 80,000 will get you some two real nice laser engraving machines in your shop and have you outputting tons of stuff. Are there any kind of upfront costs or fees or hidden weird charges that people might want to look out for? Like you get, when you buy a home, you go to the table and there's all these like lists of all these random, like everybody had to get their little cut on your loan along the way. Is there anything like that with equipment financing?
This is much more straightforward. And again, for the right customers that have some creditworthiness, they've been in business for more than 2 years, we have a really easy online application that you can complete in less than a few minutes. We can get people approved in as little as an hour, and we can sometimes fund these when people have projects to deliver in 24 to 48 hours. There's typically just a documentation fee, which in many cases can be like $249. it's not that significant in the scheme of things. And from our standpoint, we also give people a free process to apply. It's free to apply.
Right.
If we get you approved, if we table an offering and you decide either I don't want to buy this equipment or I want to pay cash for it or I've decided to get another piece of equipment, there's no charge to you. So we can get you approved, table you a great option, and if you feel it's not right for you, there's no additional cost or hidden fees. If you do proceed, there's a small documentation fee, but it's really straightforward and laid out so it can be clear to everyone.
All right, let me ask you another question. So, is it typical for someone getting ready to buy a new piece of hardware for them to put some money down on the unit?
It's a really great question because in many cases we can get to the full value of the equipment, but people do have the option to put it down, and they don't all understand that. They see it more as black and white. Hey, I've been approved for a $25,000 laser. But if you've got cash on hand, you could pay that down and finance the existing amount. So as much as possible, we try to get people approved for the full value of their equipment just to make it super easy and accessible to them to get it. But people can pay down. In some cases, if people are higher risk or again a new start, there may be an ask for like 10 or 15% down up front, but it's fairly rare for me to see that. We can also help with pre-funding and soft costs, which means any shipping, installation, training, or warranties. We can get that kind of stuff included in your finance option.
So, what if someone is doing so well and they are just rocking and rolling and they thought it was going to take them, 24 months to pay off those two machines that they just got that you guys help them get, and they're just like, I can pay these things off right now. Like, is there a prepayment penalty? How does that work?
Across the equipment finance space, while there's no penalty to pay off early, it is a net lease because they're smaller pieces of equipment. So when you go to pay it off, it is the sum of all payments. When people think they're going to have a lot of revenues in and that they will pay it off early, we tend to recommend the shorter terms, such as 24 months. And it is really impactful choosing shorter terms. The interest rate does accrue over a shorter period, and you pay a lot less interest. So if you want to aggressively pay off, there are flexible options to meet your needs. And when people go for their 60-month terms, you may pay more interest over time, but you have a nice low monthly threshold, which leaves you an easy opportunity for early return on investment and revenue that you can take above your costs.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. There's the aggressive payoff route, and then there's the long haul payoff route. I actually, when I financed my first piece of equipment, I think I did the 60 months, and it's just what made sense for me at the time, and it actually worked out really, really well. Like, it got to the point where business was going so well that I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice the payment every month. Like, it was just like, as far as I was concerned, it belonged to me. and all of a sudden I just got this letter one day and says, hey, your equipment's paid off. Thank you very much. We're done here. And I was like, oh, that was cool.
I think some people get overly focused on what is the interest amount, and having a longer term that is nice and comfortable for you leaves you with a lot of profit in your business on a monthly basis. Just
Right.
makes a tremendous amount of sense. And as you pointed out, these laser engravers, they're excellent machineries. They work very well. But by the time you get to the end of a 3, 4, or 5 month lease, you're ready for your next one. And we'll be
Yep.
there to help for the longer term when you're ready for your next unit so that you can stay on the cutting edge of technology and not sweat your assets. Leasing, again, makes a lot of sense for getting that next unit.
Okay, here's one that I think everyone can relate to. So what happens if a business can't make a payment? What happens if there's, say, a pandemic and all business like shuts down in the whole world, and the phone lines stop ringing? Some act of, there's two different reasons why. Maybe they're having financial troubles. Maybe something happened at work. Maybe there's a pandemic. Like, what are some scenario? What does that scenario look like? Do you guys offer any kind of help to help them out, or is it just, I don't care, pay me now?
It's a great question, and really, we want to work with people, right? We want people to be successful, and taking back equipment and reselling it is a very difficult process and also very expensive. So if you contact your bank and lender and let them know that you're facing issues, they do want to work with you. They will come up with other payment options. And in this case, most of these are kind of securitized against the equipment. And so it's not across your whole business. It provides you with more flexibility, to be successful. But we do want to see people grow out of tough times. The aim is not here to end people's businesses.
Right. That makes total sense. Yeah. That would not be good for any equipment financing company, because then you'd have no one left to offer your services to.
But it's also not a great option to get pieces of equipment back. It happens a little bit more in like big construction industries or with big pieces of
Yeah.
equipment, where getting that equipment back and reselling it might make some sense. But if you have a laser engraver, we really want you to keep that, and we want you to be successful with it. And that's why we do so much vetting up front, right? We find people that have good credit veracity and have revenues and have customers, and those are the people that are going to get approved and get the equipment they need. If people
Nice.
are taking a risk and the revenues aren't there, they're less likely to get approved. So we really want to avoid sticky situations.
Yeah. So just to kind of wrap things up here, do you have any customers, without saying their name, I understand privacy, that come to mind, like a success story that you could share of someone who financed through you guys, who, you knew them a few years ago, and now today they're just rocking and rolling, coming back to you for more financing because they got to keep up demand. You got any stories like that?
I have one customer, and I won't use his name, but I have one customer who works again in the wedding space, and he makes custom signs and decorations and designs. And since he's upped his game to get a bigger, better laser engraver, he's had nothing but success. He's super busy, and he has contacted us about expanding his business. We've helped him to buy other assets for his business, such as trucks, to be able to deliver those things, and he is expecting to come back to us for another laser as well. So when the right people get capital to get the right equipment for their business, it can do really great things for them.
Jake, thank you so much for taking the time again. Like I said, we're going to list links below, and so you can check out BizFi for yourself if you're interested and it makes sense for you. And I hope that everyone got a little bit of education here today on what equipment financing looks like. And if you have any questions, reach out to Jake. He's the guy. Thanks for joining me, man.
Great to meet you. Thank you all for
All
your
right.
time. And Michael, thank you so much for having us on today.
All right. See you around.
Have a great day.